Hey everyone, welcome to Alok's woodworking journey. Today I'm going to be demoing how to make a dovetailed joint using the commercial dovetail jig. For this I'm using some scrap pieces of wood which I had laying around. I have cut them into 11 inches and 5 inches long. The width is 3.5 inches roughly, and that's what I'm going to be using to demonstrate how to make the dovetail joint using the commercial jig. Alright, so first thing we're gonna do is mark the center of this block here. Okay, and so you can use either a centering ruler or you can just measure the distance, divide by 2. So that's what we're gonna do. So luckily for us, this is like, okay, 3.5 inches, so the half of that will be 1/3/4 inch, and we can just mark the center here. Okay, and then we're gonna always do the dovetail side first. This is the square one, and with the almost even width here, and not the other one. So the reason we do the tail side first is because there's no adjustment required here, and on the pin side we have some adjustments to do. So let's do the tail side first. So the pins, when we do the pin side, we can adjust the tightness of the pins basically. So that's why we are doing the tail side first here. So the next step is make sure you measure the distance. So this is like 5/8 of an inch here, and so what we need to do is the half of this, that will be 5/16 of an inch, we have to take and mark it on our block here. Okay, so that's crucial, and let's do that. What we need to do is, so I have marked the center and half of this distance here, and I also carried out the line to downward so I can see it. Now the trick is to mark position this. I hope you can see here. So the position is so that the center line is at the center of the tail, and the line that we draw is exactly at the edge here. Alright, so this is how we have clamped the workpiece here, and now we're going to route it off. A couple of points to note here. Make sure that your workpiece is flush here, and also make sure this line is centered here. Make sure you have like nicely tightly holding the workpiece. We don't want the workpiece to be dislodged or moving around when we are routing, because that will spoil the workpiece and it will create a very bad joint. Alright, so now the next step is to adjust the router bit height, and the way to do this is use the opposing stock. In this case, let me just confirm, this is 3/4 of an inch, so that is perfect. And we're going to add the height of this jig, this height here, to this. So that means 3/4, and which is half inch here for this jig. But if your jig height is different, you need to measure that and add it. So basically 3/4 inch and half inch. Now an easy way to do it, instead of, you can use a ruler or a square and try to adjust the height here, but the easier way is just take the router and make sure it is unplugged, of course, and put it here and adjust the height so that the height goes basically the stock piece and this, so that the tip of the router should be just level with this height. That's an easier way of adjusting the height. but you can use whichever way is better for you. So this is the router height is almost there. So a couple of things you want to make sure before we start. So one thing is, and make sure that the router bit is not touching any of the clamps, because this will spoil the router bit and the clamps at the same time. And the second thing you need to make sure is that the bearing here is riding on the jig, not below and not above. So make sure it's in the center, and that's how you know it is perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and uh, make the cut. Sometimes it's easier to stand on the other side because the router chips will come from here, but for demo purpose I'm using this side. I have this actually template here, the blue one, which also goes on my router table, so I'm not removing this, but for you, you can have the transparent one which comes with the router. So one thing more you need to make sure is that your collet is below this line here, because otherwise it will interfere with the jig, and I almost spoiled the jig. I didn't pay attention to this. The collet has to be all the way below this line here, so make sure you are able to, yeah, there's no interference here, and the collet has to be below this surface. Myself, earlier I had said this would be 1.5 inch. I wrongly calculated. This should be 3/4 inch and a half inch, so this is 1.25 inch. So that, I think that's why I went too low and the collet was coming in the way. So that should not be the case here. This should be 1.25 inch. Okay, so we are ready now. I've adjusted the height to 1/4 of an inch, and hopefully this time we shouldn't have any issues. I've centered it here. Let's turn it on. Okay, so that's what we have right now. So one thing to note is don't push too much, don't put too much pressure, let the router do its job, and you should be good to go. I think this is a decent cut. We'll know once we fit it. Alright, so this is what we have here, and there we go. So both the sides are dovetailed now, and now to do with the pins. So that's the next step. Let's do that. Alright, so what we're gonna do here is, what I've done here is I mark the edges, so you keep the dovetail side on top of the other piece, and you mark the edges here. You can see I marked the edges, and this is going to be important in aligning the pins. Okay, and so now we're going to turn this jig around and use this side of the jig. So one thing to note though is, if you're going to be doing a lot of these dovetail joints, it will be a good idea to have two routers instead of changing the router bit every time, which is everyone knows it's a bit painful, and like takes time away. It's maybe worth investing in another router to do different bits, and that way you don't have to change the router bits every now and then. So that's what I have the setup here. We're gonna put this here exactly matching the pins here. These should match the outline here. So otherwise, yeah, your piece may be offset, and lucky for us we have this channel here, so to grab the pieces, make sure it is flush. Same rules apply for doing the pins. Make sure that the collet does not interfere with the jig, and also make sure that the router bit does not interfere with any of the clamps. Alright, so this is the overall product of making the dovetail joints. So obviously the dovetail joints are very strong. I haven't put glue yet, but I think I'm gonna just put nails here. They are very strong in one direction, so you cannot pull them out this direction, and the only direction they'll get pulled is this way. So if we just put a nail here, they should be good to go. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more tool reviews and unboxing videos. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below.